at least for me in my postdoc currently, and in regards to time management, I think that's something I've really valued. I had to learn from the transition from my PhD to this postdoc was setting actual work hours and off hours. Because I think that when I set very clear times where this is when I go to work and this is when I leave work, it helps me also prioritize what are the tasks I have to do every day. I also, every single day, I create a to-do list. So I spend probably maybe the first 15 minutes of the morning actually at work, just sitting down and saying, okay, what are the most pressing projects that I have to do today? Also, in addition to that, I am a person that needs a lot of structure and support. So I actually, every single Monday, I have a check-in with a friend where we set our weekly goals. So during this accountability check-in that I have every Monday, I try to limit it to about 3 goals maximum. They're SMART goals. So they're specific, they're measurable, actionable, relevant, they're time-bound. The time is the week, of course. And then, I try to complete those goals and I check in the next week. I ask what worked, what didn't, how can I adjust in the future? So those are currently my time management goals or efforts.
But I am learning to be better at it, and there's a this quadrant or graph-based method that I learned in one of these workshops where you basically classify, categorize priority with quality and where's the need and how urgent this is, and you sit down with your list and try to put them in those quadrants and see how important this is, how urgent it is, how much or what sort of quality do you need with this work, putting in that framework, and I'm trying to sink in it now, and I think that's been good, but I do have to prioritize, and I do like to prioritize my science as well because that is slower than the pace of other things that I'm currently working on.
I always try to schedule different important activities in a day in a calendar. Then second, I always try to put in a buffer time, because in case there's some unforeseeable delays, so you are not panicking. So over the time, one of the boundaries that I have set is that before saying yes to anything or taking on any responsibility, I just think carefully whether this thing align with my goal, and it doesn't take time for anything that is more important than that. So I do not simply take on things just to please other people anymore.
My top 3 would be 1, to set priorities depending on my values. The second one would be to establish a consistent schedule. And then the third one would be to know how to say no when things are going above me. The boundaries that I'm proud about setting is to not feel like I need to respond to emails as I see them. So taking time to respond when I'm ready to, not immediately. Or just not taking tasks that I know I can't do, because sometimes people would ask you things, you say yes, and then you realize, no, I can't do them, but just knowing that if I can't do it, then no.
For example, what I do is I specifically have certain days, and I know that these weeks and these days of the week are when I'm going to be doing my additional work as opposed to others. I do try to have my meetings either in really early in the morning or really in the afternoon so that my daytime lab work is not really affected. And as I mentioned before, going about meetings and try to take out how can I actually maximize the time that I'm using in this meeting and what are the goals for this particular meeting. I personally am very bad at drawing boundaries, and I usually overexert myself because of that. However, I'm learning. I'm constantly trying to be a better version of myself, and with that, it is learning to delegate, learning to say no to things. I'm intrinsically driven to be in need for people if they need me to be. If somebody wants me to show something in the lab or somebody needs my help in a specific segment, I'm more likely to be like, oh, right, sure, I will help, and then compromising on what I'm working on, and which obviously can lead to mental health troubles, right? I mean, there are particularly things which could be sometimes taxing, you know, for example, equity and diversity work could be really, really taxing, and that is not really factored in your normal regime, but it's just sitting at the back of your head. So yeah, I think saying no and figuring out that it is okay to say no is something that I'm learning, and I'm also learning to not be involved because I'm passionate, so I just want to be involved in and constantly be in tune. So I have to be okay and let that go. Having after a meeting, you know, I don't have to go back and touch base with other people once again, like, okay, what's happening? So I need to learn to delegate, and I think, yeah, I'm doing that. So I probably need more of that.